Well, my belief is that the wish you would ask of a jinn has to be something you couldn't sort out for yourself, because then that would be a bit of a waste. I don't know that it changed my views on storytelling. It definitely endorsed my belief that stories are extraordinarily important to our mental health. All of our experience of the pandemic and the way in which all the stories of our own individual lives sort of stopped for a bit, and we had to live within a paragraph rather than a whole story for so long. And we all started to mind very much that we couldn't make the story for our year in the way in which we're used to doing. I'm going to go on holiday here and I'm going to do this there. And it all just stopped, and we lived each day at a time, which on one hand is, a thing that we're constantly striving to do, but did feel like we grieved for something, I think, all of us. It just so happened we were making this film at the same time as all of that, and it just endorsed my understanding of how important narrative is to us. It gives us perspective, and it's also something we can share. We listen to a story, we share it. It's a sort of empathy machine, the narrative.
Whatever it is, I'm sure it has an interesting story.
So what will you wish for?
What is your heart's desire?
I think that George, if you consider that he fell in love with this short novella 2 decades ago, maybe more, I can say with confidence that story resonated with him. And I think to a fair degree, he wanted to honor it, but expand on it, and give obviously his George Miller magic to it. And for us, I actually didn't read the novella, and maybe good or bad, but I didn't want to be tainted or influenced by it, because this was quite independent from my perspective as an actor. Honestly, any literature around jinn or genie was definitely off the cards for me. I just wanted to stay away from anything that may pre-exist my character or my character building. To some degree, we weren't as attached to the original as you might think, but I think George certainly was to some degree, right?
Yeah, I think he tried to sort of forget it in a funny way. We didn't really talk about it at all. It was the inspiration for the screenplay, and the screenplay was the inspiration for the film. And so it was left behind, and, very gratefully, I think he was very grateful for the inspiration, but it wasn't we weren't tied to it at all. We were both very, very, very fortunate. He just hijacked us out of the blue, like in all the best fairy tales. He got in touch with both of us. We both had the phone call, didn't we?
The phone call. I wanted to work with him because I was a huge fan of The Witches of Eastwick. Incredible film, big Jack Nicholson fan. And then I had this really brief encounter with George at an awards ceremony, and he just said, "I'd love to work with you." And I was like, "What? Okay, yeah." So, by the way, I would have auditioned. There's no shame in the game for a good director always.
I don't know if it was a surprise, but it was an amazement at his energy and his control of every aspect. He is a real master, and he operates on every single level. And even though, people are correctly saying that, compared to the Mad Max films, this is relatively, contained chamber piece, this film. But still, it's got 3,000 years of footage in it. And he was all over every single detail. And for so long as well, we talked about the film for, I would say, about 4 or 5 years before we shot it. And we didn't waste a second. I mean, there was a lot of chat during that time. And he was... but when we started to shoot and we saw how engaged he is with the camera, I won't say, looking back, of course he is. He's a master, but it was really an amazing thing to be around him and a camera together.
Also, what surprised me, and there's not much, but he treats every film, I imagine he treats every film he's making as his first film. excitement of a young budding director wanting to make every frame absolutely the best it can be, and being enthusiastic in every single way, first in the door, last out of the door. That was really like, you know, as someone of his experience and resume, you kind of think he could just sit and just phone it in if he wanted to and still have the same result. But no, he was really right there, super engaged in everything.
There's no story about wishing that is not a cautionary tale.
We all have desires, even if they remain hidden from us. But it is your story, and I cannot wait to see where it goes.
Oh, how it might end.
The one that really intrigued me the most was probably the Queen Sheba. That's when he was the most happiest, most, you know, living his life, being who he was, and then found himself feeling human feelings. We shot that. It was obviously a very beautiful, well-crafted set, incredibly practical. In other words, there wasn't that much green screen. It was all there. Incredible characters and people and instruments and things like that. It was all very much there. So that was really sort of like stepping back into time. I had to learn Aramaic. That was tough, but it was great for me because this is before my character could speak English, you know, and so a lot of it was really, really like a good experience. And I asked George, you know, in the beginning, I said, look, I'd love to do this film. I want to be a part of it. Can we shoot all the things that he talks about before he talks about them? That became, you know, the way we did it. So, yeah.
Well, this is the thing that was so brilliant about Idris's suggestion, which of course George completely brilliantly picked up, to shoot the history first, because I was in a hotel room with Idris telling me these stories, reporting what he had gone through before Christmas, in the shoot before Christmas. And I didn't meet anybody. I didn't meet anybody until we were in Cannes this year, which was one of the things that was so delicious for me about presenting the film in Cannes, because so many of the actors were there. And but I'd never met them before, although I had not only heard their stories, but also seen the film a couple of times. So no, I was, as Alethea is, so the recipient of the story, my ears like agog.
My name is Alethea. My story is true. I am a solitary creature by nature. I have no children, no siblings, no parents. I did once have a husband. If there is fate, who can say? But in the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul, I chose a memento.
Well, my belief is that the wish you would ask of a djinn has to be something you couldn't sort out for yourself, because then that would be a bit of a waste. I would maybe wish to be a racehorse or a bird.
I don't know. I always thought about that. We've been asked that question a lot. I never can come up with anything satisfactory, you know?
What would it have to be a djinn to give you? Because you can sort most things for yourself.
I'd love to explore. So we've all seen these incredible images of our galaxy. I would love to be able to go visit. Can I go visit?
I do have a question. What does one do with 3 wishes?
You'll see.
Oh.
I would love audiences to remember when they meet someone that, you know, say they meet them at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, their day didn't start at 12 o'clock. And no matter what state of mind you meet them in, doesn't necessarily make them who they are then. It might be a good take home from this film if you can remember that not everyone took the same journey to get to the same place.
I think that's great. And I would like to add to that we can change each other. We actually can change each other if we listen to each other, and also if we speak honestly to one another. We can change it up, but it takes good ears.